Do you need some courage right now in your life? Maybe just to get out of bed, I know the feeling, or to go to work, or to come home from work. As children of God, we get to rely on Him to give us His strength. But we also get a home advantage, other people who come alongside and say to us on a regular basis, "Courage, dear heart." I love that phrase. I'm happy today to introduce to you my friend and fellow writer, Lois Flowers, who wants to say to you today, "Courage, dear heart." Welcome, Lois. How fun it is to have you here on Living a Legacy Life. Please tell us a little bit about your family and where you live and what you like to watch on TV.
Wonderful questions. My family includes my husband of almost 32 years, Randy, and we have two daughters, 21 and 24, and our older daughter, they're Lily and Molly. Lily is actually getting married in less than a month,
Oh, exciting.
so we have a lot going on with that. Randy and I live near Kansas City on the Kansas side.
Okay.
So we are Kansas City Chiefs fans, although maybe not so much this year, but
Oops.
in previous years we were happier about that. And what do I like to watch on TV? The British Bake Off is a favorite, and we have just recently started getting DVDs from the library and watching past seasons of All Creatures Great and Small,
Oh.
and
Is that the
just love
original
it.
version or the newer version?
The newer version, and
Oh,
we don't
good.
honestly we don't want to pay for it on PBS, so we
Oh,
just get it from the library.
yeah. Yeah, we started paying for PBS when someone recommended a particular show, and then we've just never gotten off of it, which is what happens with subscriptions.
It
I
is.
love it. My kids watch the baking show. I don't, but I think it's funny that the girls do. They get a kick out of it, I think. But they don't bake as much as their mother does. But tell me about your daughters. We didn't discuss this ahead of time. If you want to talk about that, because they came from you to you in a different way than most people have their kids.
Yeah, so Lily and Molly are both adopted. Um, we adopted them from China.
Hmm.
And so
How old were they?
um, Lily was 9 months old and Molly was 13 months old. So God knit our family together in a miraculous way. And I have just like when you think about how things are going to go and how things turn out, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have done it any different way um, than how it happened. And they are wonderful, huge blessings in our life.
Mm,
Very different. They're very different from each other. One is
yeah.
a very much of an extrovert, and the other one is she's majoring in computer science,
Mm.
and but they're just like two sides of a coin, and yeah.
Did you always want to adopt? Is that why you adopted?
Um, well, I mean, we experienced infertility
Mm.
before we um had our children. And after several years of that, we still had a very strong desire to be parents. And so that was the next step.
Mm.
So, yeah.
And were there setbacks along the way, or was it just easy peasy when you started the adoption project? Because I know a lot of people
Um,
adopt and they come up with a lot of roadblocks.
yeah, I think so. Now, I don't think China is even open to international adoption anymore.
Right.
When we did it, it was a process, and it was very structured. It took a long time. Like
Mm.
it started out with Lily, I think we waited for almost 2 years
Wow.
from start to finish. And then Molly, it was shorter. So when you're anxious to become parents, the wait just seems like it's
Yeah.
never gonna end. Um, but the way I always look at it is the right daughters for our family were just ready when they were ready, and that's why it took the time it did. And so thankfully, and I am truly grateful for this, we did not experience a lot of setbacks or things other than how long it took. And again, that was relative because it eventually became much longer in China until they stopped the
Put it all
program.
together.
So
Mm. When did you first knew that you needed courage? Because you're the one who I was quoting. Courage, Dear Heart. Was there a particular time in your youth that you reached out to God and found the courage you needed? Your youth could be
Um,
yesterday, you were younger yesterday, so.
yes, I would say, of course, that phrase, "courage to your heart," is something that the Aslan, the lion, says to Lucy in the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh.
And I love the Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, if you ask me my favorite book, I would say the Chronicles of Narnia. I mean, there's seven of them, but yes, they're my favorite book. And so I have that framed in my kitchen,
Oh,
that phrase. Um, but I would say, just if I have to look back at my life and pick one season, it would probably be in my parents' later years.
mm.
Um, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and then suffered an accident at home and had to go live at a long-term care place. And I lived just not too far from my parents, so I was here for all of this. Um, and then about a year and a half later, my dad's health declined, and he ended up being roommates with my mom at the nursing home.
Mm.
And then, long story short, they both died in the spring of 2019. My mom died in April, and my dad died in May. And so, just all
Wow,
of
so close
that, I think,
together.
yeah, all of that was my my fear throughout my life was losing my parents. I think I dreaded it more because I was close to them.
Mm.
And I never could have imagined how it all would have happened, you know? And so I think just the Lord just carried me through those months and years. And, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and get in the car and drive to the nursing home, not knowing what you're going to find there. And every time, he gave me the courage to do it. So I guess that would be an example of when I needed courage and God gave it to me.
Mm. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but have you always been a writer?
Yes. So I actually, to go way back, in high school, I had a hole in my schedule. I think maybe my sophomore year, I had a hole in my schedule, and the choices that I had to choose from were newspaper class and Spanish. And at that time, I was like, I'm not going to be able to learn Spanish. So I chose newspaper, ended up really liking it, majored in journalism in college.
Wow.
And I never wanted to work for a newspaper, but my first several years of my career ended up working for newspapers in Arkansas. Um, so, yeah. And then moved into other kinds of writing. And so, but yeah, that's where I got my start.
And I think we met online somehow. Were we both blogging? Because I would see
I
your
think
name.
so.
Yeah,
Yes, and I started blogging in, I think, 2014. After many years I was a stay-at-home mom and taking care of my family and things like that, and then I just started blogging and have blogged fairly regularly ever since then.
probably more regularly than me, though I started much earlier, 2008, because I'm much older than you. Um, uh, Hold on just a minute. Lois, have you always been an encourager? Because I find you very encouraging.
Well, thank you. That is actually kind of the desire of my heart to be encouraging. Like in my writing, I'm a storyteller. I love to tell stories, just kind of like real life and real time stories. And that's kind of how I've always blogged. But I always try to do it in a way that people can be encouraged and see their own stories in my story.
Oh,
And so I think that's something that's very important to me. I want people to um, just have that understanding and knowledge that God loves them and I care for them. And yeah.
so what do you mean? Clarify that, where they see their own story in your story, where they identify exactly with what's going on, or what?
So no, I don't think that. I think they just, if I'm writing about a struggle that I had, um, as a mom with a very, uh, I don't know, just even like, for example, I went through early menopause, and at 41 I was in menopause. And that brought a lot of challenges for me when I had young children, younger
Yeah.
children, and just tiredness and overwhelmed feelings and that sort of thing. And I think those sorts of stories people can remember when they had the overwhelmed season, or maybe they're actually in the overwhelmed season right now, and the things that were helping me get through that can also help them get through that. So you read my story and you kind of personalize it with the details of your own life, is kind of what I was getting
And,
at.
and do you have someone who's been of particular encouragement to you in your walk with God? Did you model your life after them?
um
Besides C.S.
that's
Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia.
yes, that's a very good question. I would say I had my dad
Oh,
was very much that to me. He was a mechanical engineer, and I personally, I would say I'm not a mechanical engineer, but I kind of maybe think like an engineer. I'm a logical person rather than more emotionally based. It's not that I don't feel, but just more of a thinker, I suppose
mhm,
you could say.
mhm.
And so a lot of the ways that my dad thought and just his processes of teaching and writing and things like that, I think was very encouraging to me, especially as I went through papers after he passed away and stuff like that. And then I've also had over the years just older women who took the time to be my friend, and I guess you could say mentor, um, and just speak the truth in love when necessary. But I think the thing that I'm thinking just as I speak is people who are willing to share their stories with me of things that they experienced that related to what I was going through. And even if it wasn't very complimentary of them at the time,
Mhm.
they were unafraid to share that because they believed it would help me. And so that's kind of an example that have tried to emulate.
Mm. I wonder if that's just sort of, I was thinking the word magically happened, or is it something you picked up, or is just the way God made you? I'm thinking more on the last, that God made you to be a storyteller, and that's probably why you were attracted to those women in the first place, that they were vulnerable and honest with their own struggles. And you could see how that helped you because social media is all about appearance and how you look one day, and the other day I did a reel and I didn't put my makeup on. I thought, oh well, people say to be yourself, and that was myself that day. um and I think that we are attracted to that vulnerability, and that's how we learn. And God was put so many imperfect people in the Bible, and that's a comfort to me. You write this: as long as we're here on planet Earth, God has a good purpose for us. This is true no matter how old we are, what we feel on any given day, or what we imagine anyone else thinks about us. For those struggling with purpose today, actually, I have a good friend who is. She wrote me this morning about her purpose. How can you encourage them to believe this truth, the truth that I just read? As long as we're here on planet Earth, God has a good purpose. How can you encourage someone who feels purposeless right now?
I would say one of my favorite Bible verses is Psalm 139:16b. And that's the one that says, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And I think that the hard days, the hard seasons, the ones that we think are never going to end, um, I think it just helps to know that God would not allow those if he didn't have a purpose. He wouldn't not I'm not saying he causes all the problems and all the things, but if he ordains for us to be in a certain season or a certain set of circumstances, there's a reason for that. And I don't mean cliche, there's a reason for everything kind of thing. I mean, it's true what the Bible says, that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I just believe that. And I guess just from a personal standpoint, um, just over the last year, I've experienced that in a very real way myself. Had a circumstance that I was not expecting hit my life, and that truth, that knowing that God had ordained every day of my life before I ever entered the world, was so comforting. So I guess
Was that a car accident or a bicycle accident?
It was, yes. I was riding my bike. I rode my bike several times a week for exercise in the morning, and I was crossing an intersection and somebody ran a red light and hit me.
Oh dear.
Um, so yeah, I suffered traumatic brain injury and a compound fracture in my leg and spent a couple of weeks in various hospitals. So I think just the truth, the undergirding truth that I believed, that like I said, the verse, all the days of my life are ordained before one of them came to be. That was so foundational for me through all that because I believed it. I didn't know why anything was happening. I don't know why that happened or what God's purposes was for it. I still don't know all the purposes, but just I I could have not made it.
Right.
I don't think it's correct to say I almost died, but it could have gone either way a lot in my early recovery.
Yeah.
And it didn't. So
Mm.
yeah.
And then your daughter got engaged. So I'm glad you didn't miss that.
Yes, I am very glad. I'm so glad that my children still have their mother and my husband still has his wife. Yes.
And I have you as my friend. Have you ever lost faith in God while waiting in his waiting room? What helps you keep the faith? You sort of answered it, but is there anything else?
I don't think that I've ever lost faith in God in the waiting room. I am not necessarily what you call a patient person. Um, and so I've had practice at it, and I have been in God's waiting room a lot. We talked about the adoption journey before. Um, I think that prayer is something that's really helpful for me. I'm not sure how many people do this, but I type my prayers.
Really?
In order to focus, and I think it's because my handwriting is so terrible, and
Oh,
in order to focus, I have typed my prayers for many, many years.
really?
Yes, and so there are times when I'm just like, and I don't hold back. I just like it's just like if I was talking
Flat.
to some
Yeah.
just a person, like I think everything is fair game when I'm praying.
Mhm.
But one of the things that has really helped, and I this kind of comes and goes in my life, and some months or years I really remember it and focus on, other years I don't as much. But praying just out of my heart, but then when it's something that I'm really, wishing to come out a certain way, like how my plans are, um, to pray, thy will be done. So
Mhm.
I just pray out my prayers, and but your will be done. Your will be done.
Mhm.
And I truly believe that, again, like I said before, that God's sovereignty just is overall, and that his plans and purposes are not mine often. And I believe that it's again one of those foundational truths. But just what helps me just with the patience, you said, is just bringing it back. That's how I hold things loosely. I guess that's the
Mhm.
key, is holding my desires and my requests and my plans loosely. That is the way I have tried to do it, is not my will but yours be done. That's
Yeah,
the
that and that's from the Lord's Prayer too. So it's pretty biblical and basic. And yet I think I saw a meme where it says, like, I love telling God how to answer my own prayers. I thought, oh, guilty as charged. Let me tell you how
yes.
to do it, Lord. And also it reminds me of, I read a missionary biography years ago. I don't remember who it was, but she would offer things to God and then keep her hand open rather than clasp around it. Because when we're holding things on tightly, that's when we don't want to say, I surrender all. We don't want to say, thy will be done, because we want my will to be done. And it just hurts less if we offer with our fingers open. If our fingers are clasped, it hurts because God's saying, look, this is better for you. And he's pulling our fingers back. You wrote a book, or you are in the process of writing a book on parent loss. I can tell you're so close to your folks. How did you come to write the book? And did that come from typing your prayers, do you think? Was that process as helpful to you as it will be to your readers once it's published?
I would say it actually might be connected a little bit to typing my prayers. I when in my parents' last years and months, I blogged not regularly about what was going on with them, but there were times when I was overwhelmed or sad or whatever, and I would write about it. I like real life in real time. That's kind
Mhm.
of how I thought of it, knowing that um, I was not the only person uh, in the world, of course, or in the country or wherever, who was facing something similar. I mean, the details are all different for each family, but all of us are going to lose our parents if we haven't already at some point. Um, and so I was like, if I'm experiencing this, somebody else is surely experiencing something that could be similar. And so that got me started writing. And then after they died, I continued just writing about, the grief process and things that was, cleaning out the house and things like that. Well, at one point, I decided I want to write a book about this. And so I wrote down a list of every single topic I wanted to cover
Wow.
in the book. Like I think I was going to do this in February, and so I had 28. Like so, I was going to do this one a day.
Hmm.
Um, and I started doing that. I didn't start at the top, and by the time I finished, I think I had added, I don't know, 40 plus top like things. And I so everything from things that happened at the nursing home to things, the funeral, things, everything I could think of related to their last years or days and losing them. And so I had all of that written down. I mean, it was a lot. And
Mhm.
so then I can't remember if I printed it out or what, but I somehow took all that writing and put it in an order. Like, okay, let's just order this from top to bottom. And so I did that. And then, over time, it turned into chapters and then it turned into, oh, yeah. So I've never written anything like that before. Years ago, I wrote a book about infertility, and I started with an outline. I had a very detailed outline for that book. I started at the beginning and wrote to the end, the outline, and the book was published. So this was completely different from that. There was no outline to start with. It was just, here are all the things I want to write. And I feel like, um, I wanted to write my family story, but I also wanted it to be something that other people could read and say, yeah, I didn't know that, or yeah, I experienced that too, or yeah, that's what that's like, that soul level look at this process of losing your older parents. Um, and then just how it came together. The first part of the book is more like what happened, and the second part of the book is more, reflective and maybe encouraging or encouragement for the reader, but it's all hopefully that too.
So, for those who are struggling with the death of a loved one, parent or not, what's something that you wrote or learned that can be of comfort? Maybe give us two things.
Yeah, so I think if I had to choose one thing that really got me to write the book in the first place, it was because my dad was like the spiritual rock in my life, and the some of the things that how he responded when his health was really declining, um, I would not have expected in that spiritual rock kind of person. I mean, nothing like horrible, just his health influenced his whole being,
Which it
things like
does.
it does, yes. And I didn't really understand that. And this
Mm.
is my dad,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a process of like, how could this person live his life all this way and then be like this?
Mm.
And I think just through the process of watching my dad to the end and him passing away, I just realized that God is always at work on us, no matter how old we are, that as long as we're here, he's working in our lives and our hearts. And some of that work may be for us and some of it may be for the people around us. Um, and so it's kind of like I learned, not that I was judging my dad, but I think I came to see it in a much more grace-filled way.
Mm.
Like
We'll use
I
that
have
word,
not,
grace. Yeah. Not
yeah,
judgmental. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're saying, hey, this is my dad, but he's now more like a child. That's how I felt a little bit when my dad was failing. And I would
Hmm.
get very depressed over it because it was so sad because he's no longer my dad the way he was. And yet, um, we have to offer that same grace to them like they did for us all our upbringing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
sweet and tender and sorrowful. I think it can be very sorrowful.
Yes, for
That is a
sure.
comfort if anybody's listening and saying, hey, this is what I'm experiencing right now, and I'm kind of upset about it. Anything else that you learned?
I think the other thing is that every family's details are so different,
Mm,
that there's just personalities and circumstances and everything. I think I might have mentioned this before that if I had planned, I mean, I had expectations about how all this was going to go.
oh,
And the interesting thing was that my dad did also. He thought he was going to die at home like his dad did in his chair.
mhm,
And, you know, that's why it's really hard for him when he had to go and live in the nursing home and get care there. My expectation was that one parent would pass away, after some kind of whatever sickness or heart attack or whatever. And then the other one would be just they get used to life without the other spouse and live for many more years.
mhm,
That was my expectation. Um, and so, that didn't happen. They died 5 weeks apart instead.
mm,
And so I think just the whole thing about expectations and going back to what I said about all the days ordained for us are written in God's book before one of them came to be. And when our parents die, those were the days that God ordained for them. And that doesn't make it any less sad, but it does sort of bring peace, or it did for me. It just brought peace knowing that whatever I had done or not done to try and help care for them, manage their care, whatever, nothing that nothing I did or didn't do um, influenced the days that God ordained for them. And
mm.
so that's very helpful too, I think.
Yeah, because we all have expectations about things for ourselves, for our children, and in your case, your parents. And God just says, "Let your expectations be only in me," as Psalm 62. And and that hit me in college because I thought, oh, well, I think my expectations are in what I want for my life. And so it's always a big conviction and a great shift of focus. And it gives so much peace when I just give it up. I've been joking saying that I've given up worry for Lent. And I thought, now how long is Lent? When can I start worrying again? And it's been such a blessing because, of course, I have three daughters, so I'm always worried. But lately, I've just, as soon as a worry hits me, I go, oh, nope, I'm not going to worry. And that is shifting my focus off my circumstances, or in this case, my daughters, to God, who, like you say, is in charge of everything. What's review that verse again? Psalm 139, what?
16b.
16b. Okay, I got that. Okay, this is a podcast about legacy. What legacy do you want to pass down to those who know and love you?
Um, I thought you gave me that question early, and I've been thinking about that. I think maybe if I had to boil it down, I would say I hope that they see me, and again, I'm working on this still, but of a person who prays about everything, that prayer, um, kind of marks and drives my life. And I think also just the truth that the hard things that happen in our life, um, that God uses those to make us more useful for us to um, proclaim His glory. Um, so I think that maybe those two things combined, the prayer that, if my girls would say, my mom prayed for us,
Mm.
and that they learn from me that the things in life that are hard are allowed by God for His divine purposes. I don't know if that's a legacy, but
It is a legacy. My girlfriend and one of my best friends, Bonnie, my daughter Bonnie's named after her. She used to tell me, and I had met her mom when she was quite elderly. And Bonnie, my friend Bonnie, said, we used to look down the hallway and my mom's door, bedroom door, was open, probably on purpose. And she would be kneeling by her bed praying for me and my brother, she said. And I think, wow, that is a legacy, because she was a quiet, demure, godly woman named Madge. And the legacy that Bonnie, her daughter, remembers is her on her knees giving her kids over to the Lord. And I thought, wouldn't it be best for our kids to see us, instead of wringing our hands with worry, but instead folded in prayer and submission to God's will and just offering them? And in fact, the same friend said to me recently, Sue, we remember we gave these kids over to the Lord in their initial dedication when they were infants, and that hasn't changed. God has not given them back to you. So that, I think, is a beautiful, beautiful legacy. I think it's interesting that you type your prayers, because that means you would always have to be on your iPad or your computer. Whereas I do write my prayers because they make them more meaningful, but I can never read them again because my handwriting is so terrible. Um, how do you embody the welcoming heart of God?
I think that question gave me a little pause, and um, I think that I bring it back to my writing, and I think that if I'm able to share stories from my life and encourage people to see ways that God is working in their life,
Mhm,
I think that is probably how I would answer that one.
mhm,
It just goes back to the encouragement thing that there's just God is always at work around us. Is that a thing from Experiencing God, a Henry Blackaby statement? I think that it's true. And I guess that reminds me of something else that I was going to say about prayer is this past year, the passage Philippians 4, about being anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving,
yeah.
let your requests be known unto God. The with thanksgiving has really been crucial for me this past year. And I don't know, I mean, I've known that passage probably my whole life. I probably
Mhm,
learned it in Awana as a kid. I don't know. But I don't think that phrase with Thanksgiving never really stuck out to me. I think I was always more focused on the be anxious for nothing part because
mhm.
I was a worrier when I was a kid too. But just I think when I'm praying now, in even just on my computer, that I go through the day before in the prayer and just thank God for everything that all the goodness. And it's been very impactful for me. My word for the year this year is rejoice.
Mm,
And I don't know, I have no idea at the time when that came to me. I was like, oh, that's an interesting word. That's kind of like Christmas. Like, why is that going to be my word for the whole year? But it's been very, very helpful just keeping my mind on, the things that I have to be thankful for when sometimes I'm more tempted to complain and gripe.
Well, I wish we were neighbors, because the Lord's telling me the same thing. And I think I even did an Instagram reel about it, because I just thought, wow, I have been praying that prayer for years, and really good about giving my request to God, but forgetting the gratefulness part. And I have been so much more grateful lately. And I know that pleases God. In fact, I'm reading a book on trust by Brennan Manning. I've probably mentioned before on these podcasts, but it's so good. I'm reading it for the second time. It's called, I don't remember what it's called, Relentless Trust, I think. But he says that gratefulness is the biggest sign of trusting God.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, that's a big statement. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very true, because even when we get disappointed, we say, Lord, I'm so grateful that you're in control. I'm so grateful that you know what you're doing, because I don't know why this happened. I'm so grateful that you haven't answered this prayer, because I know you're actually doing things that I cannot see. And that's what faith is, Lois. You know that as a longtime believer, that faith is not seeing it and then believing it. Faith is believing it no matter what you don't see. And God keeps growing us up in that, even though we're older and we should know better. Lois, this has been delightful. You have a wonderful free resource for our listeners. It is called a 7-day devotional called Faith fear and the God who goes before us. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. So my favorite Bible verse, it's on a piece of paper on my refrigerator. My husband carved it in a sign. It's over my piano, is Deuteronomy 31:8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged.
Mm.
And that is just like, it's just like I love that verse. It has so much packed into it. And I just took every phrase, the Lord himself goes before us, in each one per day, and
Oh,
for a 7-day devotional. And yeah, it's very special to me. And I hope as I wrote it, I hope that it is meaningful to people who, tend to struggle with a little bit of fear sometimes, or all the time too.
yeah. Yeah, well, we all do. Okay, I'll put the link for that free resource in the show notes. Lois, this has been a delight and a comfort, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thank you, Sue. I've enjoyed it immensely.